It's a universal rule. Cyborgs are cool. Give a character a laser eye or a mechanical arm, and more often than not, they are elevated beyond the other squishy life forms in the story. Sega clearly understood this concept, as was aptly shown with the release of Cyborg Hunter. A relatively late release for the Master System, Cyborg Hunter was developed by Sega and provided a more complex experience than many of its contemporaries on the system. The Japanese release was actually based on the Sonic Soldier Borgman anime. The game was renamed for its release in other regions, with the characters and story also being altered slightly from the Japanese version to remove the license. Regardless of the version, the base game remains the same. You are a bounty hunter tasked with storming a cyborg base. There are several chief cyborgs that make up the primary targets, with other lesser cyborgs also ready to be trashed along the way. Cyborg Hunter features a very different rhythm of gameplay compared to other action platformers on the Master System. Whilst the action is side-scrolling, you are constantly looking towards the top of the screen. One side has an Aliens-esque blipper that helps you keep track of oncoming enemies. The other side features a map of each stage, allowing you to see where you are as you traverse each floor via the various lifts. An interesting element of the game is the action itself. You're dropped into the game with very little offensive equipment, forced to use your fists to defend yourself. However, you are able to pick up a variety of weapons and other items, helping give you an edge as you progress through the game and confront the more powerful enemies. All of these gameplay elements give Cyborg Hunter a relatively fresh feel that brings to mind games like Metroid and elevator action. That said, it's nowhere near as polished as those particular titles. Most enemies are relatively simple to approach, with even the so-called chief cyborgs posing little threat to the player once they've collected a few items. The presentation is also nothing particularly memorable. There is some clean sprite work on display, and some stylish full-screen portraits during the cutscenes, but the game otherwise looks fairly plain. The backgrounds in particular get very samey, with little variation throughout the majority of the game to set areas apart, sometimes forcing you to spend longer looking at the simple map in the top of the screen, rather than the main action view. The music and sound effects are similarly forgettable. A shame, given the potential of the subject matter for some really fun electronic tunes. Cyborg Hunter isn't a classic, but it remains a fun game that is worth picking up. It serves its purpose in fleshing out the Master System library, giving owners a differently paced action game to sink their teeth in.